So sorry, gents. This is Harvey, KC3NZT here. Am I making it in okay?
Great, Harvey. Go ahead. WA3VEE.
Ron, and thank you for the text message. So sorry, guys. I don't have the new pre-ramble up here yet, but I'll use the old one. It's already up on the computer. So we'll get started here. Apologies again. Good evening and welcome to the 146.985 Monday Night Workbench. My name is Harvey, KC3NZT, and I will be your net control operator for this installment of the Workbench. The Workbench is a directed technical net that operates every Monday night at 8 p.m. on the W3GMS repeater in Parksburg, Pennsylvania. The goal of this net is to answer questions and discuss topics of a technical nature to further the aim of amateur radio. Information regarding the repeater, its owner, repeater operating practices, and our regular get-togethers, both on the air and off, can be found at the website www.w3gmsrepeater.com. The repeater uses a -600 kilohertz offset and is accessed with a PL tone of 100 hertz. There is a 3-minute timeout timer on the repeater. Please let off your push-to-talk for a moment if your transmission will exceed the 3-minute timer so we can reset, like this. Please wait for about a second between hitting the push-to-talk and speaking. Otherwise, we will miss the first part of your transmission. Occasionally, the repeater has intermod present. Please run high power or be prepared to check in digitally. If you are not close to the repeater, please call out and ask the host if you're making it in so we can make sure that we don't miss your transmission. Tonight, we will begin with digital check-ins followed by RF check-ins. When you check in, please indicate if you have a question for the net. Once check-ins have completed, I will begin by asking stations to make a brief comment on what you did this week in amateur radio in a roundtable-style format. Please note the station that follows you in the rotation so you know whom to address following your comments. After general comments, I will begin the directed question portion of the net. This is not a private net. If you can hear my voice and are privileged to do so, please check in. Let's begin. This is Harvey, KC3NZT, asking for digital check-ins. Please call now.
Whiskey 8, Charlie Romeo Whiskey, CR, I have a question. Back to net.
November Whiskey, and no solutions.
Station calling, please repeat your call again. It was a little choppy. I was not able to copy it.
Alpha 3, November Whiskey.
Relays, I can't tell if that's a digital station or not. This is KC3NZT.
This WA3VE is digital station, but you're either a little far away from your Wi-Fi router or you're just not making it because you've got a lot of packet loss. I could not copy that call sign here. I heard some kind of like a November Whiskey, but that was all I got, if that's even correct. WA3VEE, back to you, Harvey.
All I got is the November Whiskey. Digital station, would you mind giving us your call phonetically 2 or 3 times back to back? Thank you.
Let's try this again. Alpha Charlie 3, November Whiskey.
We'll circle back to that. I got Alpha Bravo 3 November Whiskey, but that's the best I could get. Are there any other digital check-ins at this time? Please call now.
KC3SQI.
November Whiskey. Can you give me a Roger, 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 if that is correct? Nothing heard. We will circle back if time permits. We are going to move on to RF check-ins. So far, I only have W8CRW on the digital side, and then a question mark. RF check-ins, please call now. This is KC3NZT.
Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo. WA3 VEE, no questions, Harvey.
W3KZG, no questions.
B3ZIM, no questions.
KC3 SQI, question.
3QP, no question.
C3YSM, no questions.
KD3AIS, Kilo Delta 3, Alpha India Sierra Mobile, no question.
NA3CW, no questions.
KC3OOK, no question. We'll take a pause there for a second. On the RF check-ins list, I have Ron WA3VE, I have W3KZG, KB3ZIM, KC3SQI, W3QP, KC3YSM, KD3AIS, NA3CW, and KC3OOK. Are there any other RF check-ins? Please call now. Nothing heard. Are there any other digital check-ins? Please call now. Nothing heard. I'll read it from the top. It looks like we have two questions tonight, and that is fantastic. From the top, I have W8CRW with a question. WA3VEE, W3KZG, KB3ZIM, KC3SQI with a question, W3QP, KC3YSM, KD3AIS, and NA3CW, and KC3OOK. So that is our list for the night. That's the official list. We're going to start with UCR, and we're going to go through the round table style portion of the net, where you give me a brief comment on what you did this week in amateur radio. So over to you, W8CRW. This is KC3NZT.
Very good, Harvey. Thanks for taking the net tonight. This week in ham radio was the normal 985 activities. Throw in Simplex net and the Red Rose Pig Roast. So that's it for me. And let's go to, I don't know, I forgot who's next. So I'm going to say, pick it up, Harvey. Sorry, I forgot who was next.
Trouble at all, CR. Go ahead, Ron.
Good, Harvey. Thank you so much. KC3NZT and the Workbench and the group WA3VEE. All very good. Not much going on over here in ham radio, except yesterday had the pleasure of working with George, WA3LVR, our field day chair, and also with Harvey, or correction, with Bill, KC3OOK, and we reconciled in a marathon 6-hour session through the generosity and hospitality of George. We enjoyed his beautiful home and sat there and reconciled all the field day stuff. And also the biggest part of it was getting Greg, W3DIB, on the horn with us. And many, many, many thanks to him for what he did to help us get the data straightened out. So that is all submitted to the ARRL. And if anybody else wants to comment on that, Bill, you're on frequency also. I won't comment any further, but it was a very, very good field day. We had a lot of visitors, 34 participants from 985. That means the folks who set up, either set up, tore down, or operated, logged, in any way assisted with the actual operation of field day. And I think Joe told me that's a record. He's never had that many people. We've never had that many people assist before or participate in any way, shape, or form with the actual field day activities. We had about 31 visitors, and we had 8 youth. So that includes our own Luke. So, and we had about 100 contacts on K3DTS to go to station. Just a phenomenal field day. Obviously, as you all know, a lot of work, but everybody pulled their weight, and it was just really phenomenal. So that was the big event yesterday. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott down there in the lower portion of the county. W3KZG to take it, WA3VEE with the Workbench.
Thanks, Ron. W3KZG. Thanks for your work up there, you and Bill and George, getting that all straight. And hopefully we made enough contacts and got enough points. Sounded pretty good. Seen some YouTube videos of other clubs that did way more, but I don't know. Some of them were doing QRP only, so they were getting multipliers and that sort of thing. But it was a good time, which is the point of it, and I definitely had a good time. It was my first time at field day, and it was challenging because I don't contest like that, and it was definitely a learning curve, and definitely takes practice to be quick. Like Harvey, I was standing outside the camper when Harvey was up there for his short stint, and I was like, man, this guy's a machine running those pile-ups. I couldn't believe how fast he could go. It's pretty amazing. But this week in ham radio for me, I didn't really do much for ham radio other than I did do some more work on the trailer that I had there to get it completed, because it's going to end up being a camper trailer. So that's all I had doing. So I'll send it over to who goes after me? KB3ZIM. I'll take it away. This is W3KZG.
Thank you, Scott. This is KB3ZIM, Kilo Bravo 3, Zulu, Indy, Mike, Bob. And good to hear everyone in here tonight. I have no questions, of course. I have not been operating very much in the last several weeks for a number of reasons, including the fact that I've been traveling a bit and out of town quite a lot, and not with my regular motor vehicle, which means the mobile unit is not along with me, and that's actually been getting some work done. And I haven't needed it traveling in my wife's vehicle, so I haven't had it for 4 weeks, so I don't even have a mobile vehicle, so to speak. So anyway, that's my excuse. And it's good to hear everybody in there, some familiar calls. Don't have much to say, but I certainly did want to key up and check in. So I'll be listening to see who asked what, and we'll go from there. So I believe now I send it over to KC3SQI from KB3ZIM.
Am I getting in okay?
Good, Wayne.
Okay, Harvey, thank you. And KB3ZIM, and this is KC3SQI. I'm actually on Echolink right now because of weather down here. Do have quite a bit of lightning, so I just decided to do this one. So, as for what I've been doing this week, I made up the coax to go from the main run out to the new mast to put the 2-meter antenna onto the new mast. Also working on moving the remote antenna switch from the old mast to the new one, which is about a 30-foot longer run, and trying to put some connectors on that so that it looks halfway decent, and we can work on things there. And then finally decided to get a weatherproof box and put that out at the new mast and put everything into a weatherproof box, because there's a lot of other stuff that I've got going that is needing a little bit of protection. So with that, I'll turn it over to W3QP. This is KC3SQI.
KC3SQI and the group. This is W3QP. Not much radio the past couple of weeks. Just been busy with entirely too many projects. I did get up to the Kutztown, I think it was the Kutztown Homesteader Festival. Might not have that name quite right. And operated up there as, I don't even remember, Kilo 3 Hotel? Whiskey 3 Hotel? I have no idea. I am lost in the world. But that was a tremendous amount of fun. I was up there for a couple of hours, and actually ran into Jim, AF3Z, down at Longwood on Sunday, I guess it was. I was wandering around off in my own world, and he saw me and flagged me down, and we had a nice quick chat. So that is all for me. Over to KC3YSM. This is W3QP.
Thank you, Tim. W3QP, this is KC3YSM, Stephen Downingtown, and ham radio for me, the normal 985 net. I've been talking about getting some battery power back up for the shack, and finally have juggled some things around, got a new battery in, moved the car battery into the shack, and I'm actually running on battery power right now. Also took a ride down to ham radio outlet in Delaware and picked up a couple things, one being the power pole kit, so I can move some things around and put some different connections on some of these cables and get it organized down here in the shack, so looking forward to doing that. Also just sold the generator today. It was kind of a beast, but it wasn't a pure sine wave generator. The one I just picked up, it'll arrive tomorrow, it's got THD of less than 5%, so I think that'll be pretty good. I'm looking forward to getting that up and getting that set up. So that's what I've been working on. I will toss it over to you, KD3AIS. This is KC3YSM.
KD3YSM. This is KD3AIS. Am I making it into the repeater, Harvey?
Perfect.
So this is KD3AIS, Tim from Malvern, but I'm mobile today, and this is my accomplishment in ham radio this week. I just drove out to Mount Joy to join the Sportsmen's Association out there, and upon entering Sheets, I encountered the fast water rescue crew still in their gear, and only after that, and after driving through very flooded water and crested riverbanks, did I realize I should turn on the weather station of my radio, which I did, and it warned me there was flooding. So I did not make the meeting. I turned around, but I can make it into this call, so I'm happy to do so, and I will pass it over to Chuck, NA3CW. This is KD3AIS.
Thanks, Tim. KD3AIS, NA3CW. Glad we didn't read about you in the news or hear about you. Ham radio. Well, by the way, over here in Parksburg, we hardly got a little shower out of it. Everything just kind of goes around us. So, ham radio, Thursday night hosted the roundtable. Sunday night hosted the PM AM pre-net on 75 meters. And here I am today. Otherwise, really nothing outstanding as far as operation or construction or whatever going. I've been in a computer phase lately when I have the time. So that's it for me. Over to ding, 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 Mr. Bill, KC300K, NA3CW.
Chuck, NA3CW, KC300K, and thanks, Harvey, for taking the chair tonight. And not a lot of radio activity for this week for me. Ron highlighted probably the biggest thing and covered that well, which is getting the submission in successfully to the ARRL. And I learned a tremendous amount about backup files and the N3FJP logging software. So while it was a long day, it was well worth it. Other than that, not much going on here other than working in the ham shack, not on the radio, but in the ham shack. And when we were doing the log yesterday, Harvey, happened to see your log and all your contacts. And my question was, how long was Harvey here? So great job, Harvey. And great job to everyone that was a field day, actually. So I was switching radios after I checked in. So I don't know if there's anybody after me. If you are and you know it, I'll go ahead and pick it up. If not, back to Harvey. So KC300K.
Thank you very much, Bill, and all that gave us their week in ham radio. I was there for about 2 hours on field day, and I had a lot of fun. I do enjoy that kind of contesting. I just need to figure out how to do that for DX contacts while I'm at home. But I do enjoy that. My week in ham radio, I haven't done too much official ham radio. I've been doing some kind of sort of getting ready for it kind of ham radio. I am going back up to the lake house here in a couple of weeks. And I bought another boat that might work better up there. And so I did install some grounding studs on the boat, which is metal. And I might be able to try some ham radio from the middle of Lake Huron. So I did that, and I did enjoy field day. I know that wasn't last week, but that was the last time that something big in ham radio happened for me. So that was my week in ham radio, which was fun. Let's see. We have 2 questions tonight, and we're going to get to those in just a second, but I want to give a shout-out to any other stations that are wishing to check in, either RF or digital. Either is fine, especially the November Whiskey channel on digital that tried to check in and was having some trouble doing so. So any stations, RF or digital, that want to get on our list, please call now. This is KC3NZT.
It's W3FES, Fred in Coatesville. W3FES, Fred in Coatesville.
Fred, I got, is it Whiskey 3 Sierra Echo Sierra, is that correct?
Whiskey 3 Foxtrot Echo Sierra. W3FES, Fred.
Got you on the list. Are there any other check-ins that would like to be on the list? Please call now. This is KC3NZT. Nothing heard. Fred, do you want to give us some brief comments on your week in ham radio, and then we'll move on to the questions? This is KC3NZT.
Nothing much to report. We were away for a few days and non-radioactive, so to speak, so nothing to report. Just hanging out, listening. I'm working on a connector here, so I wanted to check in, say best 73 to everybody, and I'll make it a short go-around tonight. I want to finish this up. Everyone have a great week from W3FES. Hope to see you all at the Breakfast Friday.
Good. good, friend. Listening is awesome. Awesome. So it's good to do even if you're not talking. Radio is radio. All right, we're going to move on to the questions. I have two questions tonight. The first one's from W8CRW. The second one is from KC3SQI. So we're going to turn it over to you, CR. If you're ready to give us your question, please go ahead. This is KC3NZT.
Very good, Harvey, and greetings all. This is an electrical question, not necessarily ham radio, but it might have some use to some people. I was looking at a piece of equipment, and it's a 230-volt single-phase 60 hertz power supply. And my question is about the circuit breaker. It says you need a minimum of 30 amps, and I figured a 40-amp circuit breaker would be sufficient. But then there's a note. It says, be sure that you use a circuit breaker that will exceed 142 amps. So that confuses me with this piece of equipment. If it says it's a 30 amp and they're saying the starting current is 142 amps, what's the real circuit breaker size that's needed? Back to net.
Hey, let's make sure we got the specs right there. Can you confirm that we are talking about 230 volts, 30 amps, and the circuit breaker needed for that circuit is what is the question, right? Is 230 and 30 amps, is that correct?
QSL.
Hey, excellent. I'm sure we have some thoughts on the matter. Let's open it up to the group. This is KC3NZT. Who has comments for CR? Please call now.
WA3VEE.
Ron?
Good. KC3NZT, WA3VEE here with the group. Boy, does this sound very familiar. This is almost a career ender for me, but I won't get into that. I think what they're saying, CR, is that if you, I believe that the kind of circuit breakers we use here in the United States are, they're not. Be careful how I say this. It takes a little bit of time, a few cycles of AC at excessive current to trip the kinds of breakers we use here in the United States. In Europe, and I take it, I'm surmising here, but if this is a 230 volt, 30 amp supply, first of all, 30 amps, 230 volts, my goodness, you have to tell us what kind of power supply this is, because that's really pretty hefty, obviously. In Europe, they use magnetic circuit breakers. And I discovered this very, very painfully one time when I was an R&D engineer. So those trip. My Inrush current was over 200 amperes. The tripping current for those was 48 amps in 1/2 cycle. So you might get away, unless I don't know, anywhere in the United States, in a normal circumstance, in our regular boxes, our panels, Chuck, unless you do, or anyone else on frequency, but I don't know anywhere in the United States where we're using magnetic breakers, which are super fast reacting. I think that's what they're getting at, but you might be okay with a 30 amp breaker. And of course, what they're probably referring to, in my mind here, is the inrush current, the magnetizing current, the inrush current of the transformer. Back to you, Harvey. KC3NZT, WA3VEE.
Very good. I have some thoughts on the matter, but let's open it up more to the group. Does anybody else have any advice for CR? Please call now.
W. NA3CW. What he said, looking at the other side of it, when you want a circuit breaker in an electronic thing, you do have to get special order to get fast ones. But yeah, household breakers can take considerable short duration surge. And as long as this is a short duration, like milliseconds, I think you're going to be fine. If it's a, I'll say a decent amount of inrush current. Without that time delay, you'd never be able to start a small air conditioner or a refrigerator or anything with a compressor because it would be tripping all the time. And so household breakers are relatively slow. And the other thing is they don't have tremendously high interrupting current capability like you would have in an industrial situation. I don't know if you've ever seen on a circuit breaker, it'll say so many thousand interrupting amps. Like I think household is 10,000 interrupting amps, but in amps. But so in commercial stuff, the big industrial stuff, it might be 100,000 interrupting amps. But in any case, with a household one, they have a fair bit of delay. So I guess they're warning people that, like maybe in Europe, that have magnetic breakers, that you better have enough time delay to prevent that. And some breakers are actually adjustable for time delay. Back to net, NA3CW.
Chuck, are there any other comments for CR? Please call now. Nothing heard, CR. I'm just going to drop a few things in there, not in contradicting, I don't think, but in addition to. One thing I would say is you didn't mention if you're talking about a circuit breaker on the appliance or if you're talking about a circuit breaker in your house. I'm assuming from the other comments you're talking about in your house. And all I would do is caution against what you're protecting against. If you were to put in an oversized breaker because the appliance is asking for it, remember that there's a whole bunch of wiring between the breaker and the appliance. And if there were to be some sort of failure, if it were to fail just correctly in order to cause a disaster, that breaker needs to trip in order to protect the wiring between the breaker and the appliance. So if the appliance calls for a high amperage breaker and you were to put that in, but it was fed with wiring designed for a 240 30 amp circuit in an American house, well then now that wiring is at risk. So my recommendation would be is to put in a breaker that protects the wiring. Hopefully that jives well with your appliance. But if you have, say, for a 30 amp breaker, if you have 10 gauge wire going from that breaker to the appliance, and you put in a 40 amp circuit breaker to accommodate that appliance, well, there could be a rare failure where that 40 amps could overtax that wire rated for 30 amps according to NEC. So that's all I would throw out there. So if there's no other comments for CR, I'm going to turn it back to CR. Do you have any follow-ups, or is your question satisfied? This is KC3NZT.
Thanks, Harvey. No, I'm aware of that. The issue is that I have a 40 amp circuit, which I assume should handle this, but it's the note here that says. Our final word of advice goes out to anyone who thinks they're going to save the cost of an electrician or circumvent extension cord, where they say don't use an extension cord longer than 100 foot. Your gas generator is not capable of handling the motor's starting current of 142 amps. And that's the thing. And actually, this is an American appliance. It's a wood chipper. It's an electric wood chipper. But so I'm going to have to call the manufacturer and talk to them some more. So thanks for the information, guys. Back to net. WHCRW.
B3OK, comment? Bill?
Thanks, Harvey. I was going to echo what Ron said. And CR, most generators, while they have a circuit that allows for inrush now, basically they can't handle that inrush current the way a commercial power line can. So on a commercial power line, your standard 30 amp breaker will take for a short period of time of an inrush of between 60 and over 100 amps. So that is the proper breaker if you're in a commercial. If it's to be powered by a generator, then that I think becomes outside of my my area. So back to you, Harvey. KC3NZT, KC3OK.
Excellent, Bill. And also remember, CR, if it's a wood chipper that you're talking about, they have to rate those assuming there could be a load on the wood chipper when you start them. For most homeowners, when you fire up an electric wood chipper, it is in the free spin position until it makes contact with the wood. That would greatly reduce the inrush current because you're just spinning the motor itself with no load on it. I think you'll find that it'll probably work just fine. I have an electric wood chipper as well, and it runs fine off of a normal, American-style electrical circuit. Any other comments for CR before we move along? Please call now. This is KC3NZT.
3KZG.
Scott?
CR, I don't think you're going to have any problems running that off your house on the circuit that it's called for, 30 amp, 240 volt. Now, on a generator, that would be, if you're planning on running it on a generator, I would just try it. Worst thing you'll do is bog the generator out. I was doing that a couple weeks ago when my power was out for 4 days. I was going around and trying different appliances on my 8500 watt generator to see what it would run and what it wouldn't run, and found out it would not run the central air. It would just bog it out. But it pretty much ran everything else. So you'll know right away whether it's going to start it or not. I guess you would probably want to run it on a generator to be remote away from the house, so you don't have a long extension cord. And it probably, like Harvey said, if it's got no load on it when you first turn it on, it'll probably be just fine. And then once you start feeding wood in, it's already got the momentum. I just wouldn't try to shove the wood in there too fast because it might bog it down and bog down the generator at the same time, putting too much load on it. But I don't see it being a problem. Back to you, Harvey. This is W3KZG.
Good comments all around. Any more for CR, please call now. This is KC3NZT. Nothing heard. We have one additional question. I just want to remind everybody that even if you agree or if everybody disagrees, your voice matters. So please check it or make a comment on the Workbench. Sometimes the affirmation is appreciated. We're going to move over to Wayne, KC3SQI, who has a question. Please call now. This is KC3NZT.
Thank you, Harvey. KC3NCT, this KC3SQI. Thanks for taking me net tonight. And my question is on thrust bearings for rotators. I've been looking around at the different ones, and there's some that are flat plates, and there's others that are just round base. If I've got about a 25 or 30 pound antenna that I'm trying to rotate, would it be sufficient to just put some unistrut off of an 1.5 inch rigid conduit to be able to support the thrust bearing? So, back to you, Harvey.
Hey, Wayne, I was doing my best there. The audio is a little muffled, but it sounds to me like you have a 25 to 30 pound antenna. And did I hear correctly that you're trying to hook unistrut to a 1.5 inch mast? Is that what I heard? I may have heard that incorrectly. This is KC3NZT.
Okay, let me see. Did that help?
Better.
Okay, yeah, it's a 30-foot, 1.5 inch rigid conduit mast that this will be, tilt-over mast that this will be attached to. And it'll be at the top of the mast, so Would 2 pieces of unistrut coming off of the mast be enough to support a thrust bearing to use a little bit smaller rotator?
I think I got you there. So the goal is to use a smaller rotator and support the 25 to 30 foot conduit better. So a smaller rotator is acceptable. Let's open that up to the group. Any comments for Wayne? Please call now. This is KC3NZT.
KC30, okay.
Bill.
KC3NZT, KC30, okay. Well, I'll take the first stab at it. Well, 2 factors there. One, Wayne, my experience has been that your alignment between that thrust bearing and the rotation point on the rotator is pretty critical, and it has to be a fairly secure connection. So you really have to have some engineering on that unistrut to have it, to be able to get it there and really rigid and centered well. But on a first flush, I can think of how it could be done and pretty precisely, and that would be to, rather than putting the rotator on the top of your mast, put a plate on the top of the mast that offsets with the bearing in that, and then put a arm that offsets your rotator down below it. So your rotator is mounted on the side of your mast, down below the top, a plate fastened to the top of it with a bearing. That you could probably make something that would be able to align pretty darn well and would be very strong. And it probably wouldn't take a lot of machining to fabricate them. So that's just a first flush. My other comment is you got 30 pounds of antenna, which is, if you equate weight to area of aluminum, it's not just the weight, but it's also the wind load on the antenna, the surface area of the antenna, which kind of drives that rotator. My suggestion would be not to go too cheap. I think we talked before. I think the Yaesu 450 will be a little light. I think the 800 would definitely do it. But that's just the first flush. So back to you, Harvey. KC3NZT, KC30OK.
Excellent points there, Bill. Something I might throw in addition to that is when I see larger, stronger rotators being spec'd out, one of the stats that usually goes up with them is braking torque. So how much antenna can it stop from twisting? And even if you support the antenna well, that much aluminum in the air, that might be something to think about too. But I am not a rotator person. I'm an indoor rotator person in the attic, so I'm not the authority on that. So anybody else with comments, if you could speak to that as well. I believe the heavier duty rotators, they have a higher braking torque, which could be relevant. Any other questions or comments, rather, for KC3SQI Wayne? Please call now. This is KC3NZT. Okay, no other comments heard. Back over to you, Wayne, KC3SQI. This is KC3NZT. Do you have any follow-ups?
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, the wind load is not a real big issue on this. It's I'm looking at a hex beam, so there's a lot of wire and a lot of very small things in there, and it's pretty symmetrical. So I think it's about 5 feet is what they say. So, okay, thank you much, and I'll think a little bit more on this. KC3SQI, back to you.
good, Wayne. Well, thank you, Wayne and CR, for those questions. Did the discussion tonight gin up any other questions from any other people that are participating in the workbench tonight? If so, please call now. We have time for more questions.
W3QP?
Tim?
Harvey, this is W3QP. So back to CR's question. I was banging away on the internet here because he got me wondering. And it looks like the proper term you're looking for, CR, is an inverse time breaker, which are also known as thermal magnetic circuit breakers, which I think is what Ron had said. It looks like Square D and some of the other manufacturers have sizing charts. NEMA has a sizing chart for it, but it's what was talked about. It's a breaker that has a little bit of extra allowances for startup burst without necessarily tripping. The internet seems to be divided on what size motor you have and whether or not you can get away with a regular breaker. Going back to, I think, what Harvey said, that it might be perfectly fine for an unloaded device, but I think those are the terms you're looking for, if that helps. That is all for me. Back to Ned. This is W3QP.
Ned.
CR?
Could you repeat that? I didn't have a pen in my hand when you mentioned the name of the breaker.
Sorry about that. I go a little fast some days. It is an inverse time circuit breaker, which is also known as a thermal magnetic circuit breaker, which I believe Ron had said earlier. Is that good?
Thank you, Tim.
Excellent. Very good technical response there, Tim. Fantastic. Are there any other comments or questions for the workbench tonight? Please call now. This is KC3NZT.
KC3OK with one question for CR. Thanks, Harvey. CR, how many horsepower is that log splitter motor?
I don't know offhand. Bill, give me a moment here. Or continue. Let me go back to their webpage.
I'll say that the log splitter that I use at the house here, it can split to significantly larger logs than it's rated for, and I have the videos to prove it. So they are fantastic appliances for people that are not doing commercial logging. But I just want to throw that out there in case anybody has never played with an electric log splitter. Any other comments or questions for CR while we wait for CR to get back to Bill? Call now, please. It's KC3NZT.
Comment, Harvey, WA3VEE.
On?
Curiosity, based on just plain arithmetic, looks like that's about a 9 or 10 horsepower, at least power consumption, or what's rated, at least by the breaker. So let's see what CR comes back and see how that compares with the actual delivered horsepower. So back to you, KC3NZT. Good discussion. KC3NZT, WA3VEE. All right, I have the answer.
CR?
The copy says 5 horsepower corded electric chipper, American 230 volts, one phase, 60 hertz. So they're saying it's a 5 horsepower. Back to Ned.
C3OK comment.
I would suspect that they are rating that because the kilowatts it can pull is so much higher than the kilowatts it pulls while running. I would suspect that they are speccing that at 5 horsepower just to spin up the inertia drum. Once that drum has the inertia, remember, not all that power is electrical. Some of it is kinetic. So that sounds like very much underrated for the electricity it could take, which will work in your favor. That's on your side. So if you spin that thing up nicely with no load and then you feed something into it, unless you take that all the way down to lock rotor amps, you should be pretty much okay.
So I hope you give us some feedback on another time after you've used it to let us know how that works. Any other comments for CR, since Bill was asking about the kilowatt rating or the horsepower rating?
AC30, okay.
Bill?
Thanks, Harvey. CR, I'm running a 5 horsepower planer that starts up under load and on a 30 amp breaker, and there's no problem with that at all. Not a bit. So just wanted to put that out there. So thanks. Back to you, Harvey. KC3MZT, KC30, okay.
Excellent. Back over to you, CR. Do you have any follow-ups, or are you satisfied? This is KC3NZT.
Satisfied. I appreciate all the feedback. The question is, I haven't purchased it yet. This is still the investigation stage. So if I do purchase it, I will certainly let you know how it works. Back to net.
Excellent. We always like to hear the end of the story in addition to the beginning of the story, so that's fantastic. Any other comments or questions for the net? Please call now. This is KC3NZT.
3KZG. CR, was your plan when you do order this to run it off your generator? Off a generator? Or was it to run it off your house power? Because running off the house power, I don't think you'll have any problems. My air compressor in my shop has a 5.5 horse 240 volt motor on it, and it starts just fine off of mains power, but when it's on the generator, sometimes it'll start just fine. Other times, it'll bog the generator down to the point to where it won't start the compressor. It's give or take, and I think it might just be because it's right at the threshold, or the starting capacitor is a little small, or it might need a soft start. But like I said, it'll run. The compressor will kick on and run 5 times in a row, no problems, and then the 6th time it'll go to kick on and it'll just bog the generator down to nothing. So that was my question, if you were planning on running it on a generator or not. That would be the only thing, is the starting amps of the generator would have to be pretty high. Back over to you, CR.
As you know, I have an electric vehicle, so I have a 50 amp outlet on the outside of the house, so I could run it off of that, I'm pretty sure. The generator, I have a 7.5 kW generator, and that would be nice if it would run it off of that, because then I wouldn't have to move the wood that I want to chop up near the house. So, like I said, this is we're doing my homework ahead of time. So, primarily, I would like to use the generator. I may not be able to, and just have to drag the wood over to the house where I can plug it into the EV outlet. Back to net.
In the case, running it off the house 50 amp circuit is not going to be any problems at all. The only issue would be the 7500 generator. My generator is an 85 with a 9500 starting watt, and like I said, it'll run the air compressor. It'll cycle on and off 5-6 times, no problem, but then just one of the random times it'll go to kick on and it'll just bog the generator down to nothing. I don't know why it does that, but it's really random. But like I said, it's a 5.5 or 6 horse motor. It's a big air compressor, so you're going to be right there. It might start it up just fine since it's new. I know my compressor's probably 25 years old, so the motor's probably getting worn out and everything else. So it's probably got way more of an amp load when it starts than it used to when it was young. So just my thoughts. Back to you, Harvey. This is W3KZG.
WA3VEE.
Go ahead, Ron.
Good. Scott, you raise a really good point about sometimes things start, sometimes they don't. At least in transformers, what happens is, depending upon how the core was magnetized, where the last AC cycle was, what degrees it was, determines where how the core was magnetized. And to a certain extent, motors, of course, obviously electromagnetic devices also, the same holds true. So if you happen to just instantaneously, if the AC wave happens to be, the starting AC wave happens to be 180 or a significant phase difference from where the windings were turned off, that looks like a huge inrush current, and that's another factor. And when you mentioned the other ones, you mentioned soft start, you mentioned capacitors and everything else. So that's just yet another factor there, just to kind of answer your question a little bit. Again, Chuck, if you disagree, certainly, absolutely welcome. Back to you, Harvey. KC3NZT WA3VEE.
Very good, Ron. I'm going to throw two other things out there, and this is going to offend our sophisticates. So Ron and Chuck, you might have to use earmuffs right now. But when you're doing something like that, back in the day when saws were big and household outlets were only 15 amps, if you have something that needs to spin and you're powering it from a household electric outlet that is undersized, what a lot of times would happen is you're talking about inrush and the breakers are slow to break. And you can use that to your advantage. It's called bump starting a saw. So what you would do is you would pulse the on with your finger to get some rotation to reduce its inrush current. And once it gets a little bit of RPM, then when you click it on, she's going to spin up. And that would absolutely happen with a wood chipper that has all that mass in there. And if you do that on a generator, because that's what you're saying your preferred method would be, is on a generator. Well, generators are typically, especially carbureted generators, they are run off of a governor. And the governor has a time delay. So between it giving the generator engine full beans, it needs to see that load. It needs to see it bogged down. Then it starts giving it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So if you can do the pulse method to basically bog that generator so then it's giving it more throttle. Remember, it's not RPMs, it's throttle. And you get it so that butterfly is open, then when you click it on, it'll be able to handle that sag for that half a second that it needs. So I just want to throw that out there. Those methods, they absolutely work. But if you don't have to do them, great. But if you have to do them, 100% they work. So I'm wondering if Chuck has any comments regarding Ron, as Ron called you out there, Chuck. So give us some feedback here. This is KC3NZT.
Hey, 3CW. Actually, in years past, I've seen big machines, and they had a button on it called jog, and that is exactly what it did. You kind of pulsed it. As I recall, that particular one was a great big belt sander. I mean, bigger to person. And wide, and so it had a jog button, and they would kind of pulse it and pulse it and pulse it to get some speed up on it, and then they would hit on. So I did have to put my earplugs in.
Hi. Any other comments regarding the wood chipper? Please call now. This is KC3NZT. Nothing heard. Are there any other late check-ins or additional questions for the workbench tonight? Please call now. This is KC3NZT. Okay, nothing heard. Well, thanks, gents, for stretching us out to 9 o'clock. I feel like I've not done my job if we don't get to 9 o'clock. So I appreciate it, and again, I apologize for being a few minutes late there. I did my best. It wasn't good enough, but I'm glad we got the job done. Please remember to check into the Thursday night roundtable this Thursday, every Thursday at 8 p.m. It will be a good time. I promise you'll have fun. With that, I will close down the workbench for tonight and return the repeater to normal amateur use. This is KC3NZT. Thank you all for checking in, and have a good night.
Good job, Harvey. Thank you so much, and no apologies needed. I've done that myself, absolutely. Have a good night. Thanks once again. WA3VEE.
WA3VEE, KC3OOK, with an after the workbench question.
The workbench question. I had to chuckle with Harvey there, I have to say. That was great. But no, I've done the same thing here. I would actually jog a motor by putting a plug in the wall, taking it out, putting it in, just to get some rotation. So I've done exactly the same thing. So I got a good laugh out of that. That was good. KC3OOK, WA3VEE, at your service.
WA3VEE, KC3OOK. Yeah, a lot of big equipment has jog buttons on them. And I guess to some extent a motor starter, and I have to believe that a motor that size would have a motor starter on it, because that would help. But my question is, it's taking up on something you talked about, which is where the last waveform is and where it is in phase to when it starts up. And I've always wondered, because I've had to deal with these issues a lot in my career because of doing a lot of generators. So you always see that the inrush current on a motor isn't a fixed value. It's a variable value. And I always assumed it was just load. But yet, in theory, they ought to be giving you the same rating, loaded or unloaded. So my question is that big variability you see in inrush current, because it can be 4, 8, 10 times, right? So is that why there's that variability, because of the phasing? Back to you, Ron. WA3VEE, KC3OOK.
A couple things there. First of all, when I was doing my testing for Inrush on my lab bench at HP, in fact, I still have the very scope that I used for that. It's actually on my bench now here, which is great. Anyway, I had to do many tries to try to get somewhere near a maximum value. Yes, it is quite variable. And yes, it does have to do with now I'm speaking primarily, in my case, I'm speaking primarily of transformer. And in this particular case, it's one that's what's called very tightly coupled, and that's a toroidal transformer. So we use those in the instruments that I was on the design team for, because those, and of course I did the power system, those were very compact. They ran pretty warm, but because they were so compact, they were very tightly coupled. So what happens is, to answer your question, what happens is, over the 360 degrees, say for instance, what's happening is the core of the transformer, obviously, is being magnetized following that AC curve. So you go from 0 to 360, and all the domains, the magnetic domains in the iron laminations are oriented in one direction to a peak. Then they go to 0. They get oriented in the other direction, and they go to 0 over and over and over again, 60 times a second. So what happens is, say for instance, the last wave, when someone comes along and turns the instrument off or turns the transformer off, say for instance that the last part of the AC wave that transformer sees is, say, 90 degrees. If you come along, maybe even right afterwards, and you return the instrument back on again, if the AC wave that it sees instantaneously is at 270 degrees instead of 90, now you've got what has to happen is the core now has to demagnetize itself and remagnetize itself to get oriented now to where it would be with at 270 degrees on the AC wave, if any of that makes sense. So you've got this huge change in magnetism going on inside the transformer core. And what's happening is that takes a lot of current to rearrange all those magnetic domains. That's where the and the maximum current it's going to take is when the core has to completely change its magnetic orientation, if that makes sense. Go ahead.
That makes perfect sense, Ron. It is slowly sinking in. No, I understand that completely. That makes perfect sense. So, all these tidbits come together. The Workbench is really good. Well, I appreciate it. I really do. As I said, I'm not learning in a logical, uniform fashion. I'm just getting tidbits here and there, but they are making sense. So that was a real good, clear explanation. I appreciate it.
And I know Tim mentioned some American manufacturers of those magnetic breakers, but the ones that I ran into were ASEA Brown Boveri, ABB, and Siemens. And boy, they are fast, I could tell you. Over there, of course, in Europe, they use 50 hertz. So a full cycle, instead of being 16.7 milliseconds roughly, it's 20 milliseconds. And I can tell you within 5 milliseconds, that breaker was seeing the full 230 amps of inrush current, the maximum it could possibly see. And those breakers, the ones that I was dealing with at the customer in Germany, BASF was the customer, and those breakers in the panel in the hallway around the corner from the lab were tripping like crazy, and the trip point there was 48 amps, and here the inrush was 230. So we solved it with what's called a thermistor. That's going down a rabbit hole here, but basically that was a sleepless night for me in Germany to get that design, but we got it fixed within 6 or 7 hours. But it was there was a big difference between the actual trip point on the 30 amp breaker, which was a 16 amp breaker, which was 48 amps, and what I was feeding it, the maximum inrush of 230. So that's why what CR is being told by the magnetic breaker, there's such a huge difference between the actual running, the 30 amp, and the inrush that they're talking about there. So that all makes perfect sense. It's we're talking 1997 here, and it's as fresh in my memory today as it was back then. No question. I hope that didn't further confuse things. KC30OKWA3VEE.
No, Ron, that didn't further confuse things at all, and I have a much better time comprehending electricity than I do electronics sometimes. But no, that makes perfect sense. And while we were talking, that's the cat, if you heard the noise there. I was thinking, I don't know if CR is still listening, but the big risk here is that to buy the log splitter and not know if your generator is going to run it. And CR could always put his generator on his trailer, bring it over here, and he can see if he can start my planer. So then he'll know before he buys it or doesn't have to get a larger generator. Back to you, Ron. W3GMS, KC30OK.
CRW commenting.
CR, I don't think CR is going to have any issue at all. They're covering themselves very, very nicely, and I don't mean that in any derogatory way at all. I think they're being wonderfully thorough in mentioning that, and that's beautiful. WHCRW in the group to transmit WA3VEE.
If I decide to pull the trigger and buy this thing, I will come see you with my generator first. Thank you very much.
CRW, KC30OK. Sure, CR, it isn't a problem because I have cable going over to the wall to the conduit box, so it's just easy to pull that out. And I have to say, Ron, I'm not 100% sure that the 7500 will, but but the thing I do know is we're talking about 30 amps, but really have to know the motor spec and know what lock rotor is, because I'll bet you that the draw is well less than 30 amps. But yeah, interesting subject, CR. Never know what questions are going to generate a lot of comment. So back to you. I'm going to be out of here, but I'll be here for one more. So I'll turn it back to you, CR. W8CRW, KC30OK.
Guys, like he said, you never know what's going to generate comment. We'll say 73, and we will see you later. WA3VEE in the group, pick it up. I'm going to say 73.
3KZG.
Why don't you go ahead and pick it up first? W3KZG in group, WA3VEE.
When I was talking about my air compressor running on the generator, and it would start it, just fine several times, and then all of a sudden it would go to kick on. I was running a lot of other things as well, so I think the generator already had a decent load on it, maybe like 1,500 watts-ish, and then the air compressor would go to kick on. Now, my air compressor is a 5.5 horse electric motor. It runs on a 20 amp, 240 volt breaker, double 20, and it's never tripped it. Now, I've put an amp clamp on that same circuit, and when that air compressor kicks on, the amp clamp actually records about 85 amps of inrush current. That was the highest I've seen. But then once it's running and spinning and, pumping air, it drops down to like 8 amps. So it's all about the startup. That thing, running amps is only 8 on it, but the startup jumps it up to like 80 amps. And sometimes I bet it's even more. It's just my amp clamp wouldn't catch it, because it's such a quick jolt that the induction amp clamp just can't pick up on it. But I did see 85 amps at one point on the one shot. So 7-3, guys. I'm going to hit the hay and got to go to work tomorrow. So everybody have a good night. Definitely a great discussion. Over to you, Ron.
God, great input. Yeah, really good discussion. One of the few things I'm somewhat fairly versed in. A lot through fun, some through pain. In my old engineering days, no doubt about it, and working with power systems and stuff. So all very, very interesting. Yeah, we got to get the AC wave has got to get the transformer organized with regard to magnetism. That's basically what's going on. And if you've got the magnetic, and very simplistically, if you stopped on the North Pole and you hit it with the South Pole, it's got to turn itself completely around. That takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of current. That's what's going on there. And yeah, good point you raised, Scott, about the existing loads on the compressor. Next time I come down, I'd like to take a look at that. I have three loads in my shop: table saw, bandsaw, and compressor that all run off at 240 from the box. But I don't think any of those aren't anywhere near the kinds of loads that you guys are talking about. Those are on 15 amp breakers, and I never have an issue in there. I was running the table saw tonight in the shop for sure, and we're running a compressor in the morning. Anyway, very, very good, and I don't know if anybody has any other comments, but I'll say 7-3, and excellent discussion tonight. Not unusual for a workbench, but this is one of the good ones. This is WA3VEE.
Say 7-3 to all as well. KC30OK, see if I got it. And Scott, that is good data. 80 amps inrush current. Yeah, that is a good bit. And even with large generators in large residential homes, we would make sequencers so that when you had a number of, because some of these big houses had multiple boilers and air handlers, so we would sequence them, and you would just start them up one at a time after that. And on some of the stuff, we'd actually do flip-flop. We'd run one for so long, then run the other. Do that with a lot of the freezers and refrigeration stuff. And of course, big commercial buildings, it's either done manually or it's done sequenced. But Yeah, as long as it'll start it, but I think it would be a good test. But yeah, I doubt if it's 30 amps. I really do. So anyhow, everybody have a good night. 730 KC30OK.
30 WA3VEE clear. Going QRT.